You bought the probiotics, the expensive ones, 50 billion CFUs, 12 strains, refrigerated shelf. You took them every morning for weeks, maybe months, and your gut is still wrecked. The bloating after meals, the gas that appears out of nowhere, the reflux that hits you every evening after dinner, the general sense that your digestive system is working at half capacity. You have switched brands, you have tried yogurt, kombucha, fermented everything, and nothing has fundamentally changed. If this sounds familiar, the problem is not that you chose the wrong probiotic. The problem is that probiotics after 40 are solving the wrong part of the equation. And the thing that might actually fix what is broken is not a capsule with billions of bacteria. It is a single, common spice that has been in your kitchen the entire time. To understand why probiotics underperform in men over 40, you need to understand what changes in the gut during this phase. The gut is not a passive tube. It is a densely populated ecosystem containing trillions of microorganisms that influence digestion, immune function, hormone metabolism, mood, and even body composition. When the system is balanced, food gets processed efficiently, nutrients are absorbed, waste moves through on schedule, and inflammatory compounds stay in check. After 40, several forces converge to disrupt this balance. Cortisol, which tends to run chronically elevated in men who carry stress, work long hours, sleep poorly, and sit most of the day, has a direct inflammatory effect on the gut lining. Alcohol, even in moderate amounts, alters microbial composition and damages the mucosal barrier. Dietary patterns heavy in processed food, refined carbohydrates, and low in fiber starve the beneficial bacteria that depend on plant fiber to survive. And years of occasional antibiotic use have left lasting gaps in microbial diversity that never fully recovered. The cumulative result is a gut environment that has shifted from balanced to hostile. The lining is inflamed. The tight junctions between intestinal cells, which are supposed to act as selective gates, letting nutrients through while blocking toxins, have loosened. Small gaps form. Particles that should stay inside the gut begin leaking into the bloodstream, triggering low-grade immune responses that manifest as bloating, food sensitivities, fatigue, brain fog, skin issues, and a persistent feeling that something is off. This is sometimes called increased intestinal permeability, and while it is not a dramatic, acute condition, it is a slow-burning disruption that affects every system downstream. This is where probiotics fail. Dropping billions of beneficial bacteria into an environment that is inflamed, permeable, and overgrown with problematic organisms is like planting seeds in contaminated soil. The seeds cannot take root because the conditions are hostile. The beneficial strains pass through without establishing themselves, which is why you can take probiotics for months and feel no meaningful difference. The environment needs to change before any repopulation strategy has a chance. And this is the step that nearly every gut protocol skips. Men buy a probiotic, take it for 60 days, feel no different, and conclude that probiotics do not work. The probiotics may be fine. The soil was not ready. This is where ginger becomes relevant, not as a folk remedy, but as a compound that acts directly on the gut environment in ways that no probiotic can. Ginger contains two primary active compounds: gingerol, found in fresh ginger root, and shogaol, which is more concentrated in dried or cooked ginger. Both are potent anti-inflammatories, but they work through different pathways. Gingerol reduces the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines in the gut lining, calming the tissue and reducing the swelling that loosens tight junctions. Shogaol inhibits the NF-κB pathway, one of the master switches for systemic inflammation. By quieting this pathway in the gut, ginger does something probiotics cannot. It changes the terrain. But ginger does more than reduce inflammation. It has a direct and well-documented effect on gut motility, the coordinated muscular contractions that move food through the digestive tract. After 40, gut motility frequently slows down. This is partly a consequence of lower physical activity, partly a result of autonomic nervous system changes, and partly driven by dietary patterns that have shifted over decades. Slower motility means food sits in the stomach and small intestine longer than it should, fermenting and producing the gas and bloating that have become daily companions. Ginger accelerates gastric emptying by up to 25%, meaning food moves through the stomach faster and reaches the small intestine in a more timely manner. This alone can dramatically reduce post-meal bloating and the heavy, distended feeling that hits after dinner. There's also an antimicrobial dimension worth understanding. The gut problems that develop in men over 40 are not always about missing good bacteria. Sometimes they are about an overgrowth of problematic organisms in the wrong location. When bacteria from the colon migrate upward into the small intestine and begin fermenting food there, the result is a condition called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO. SIBO produces excessive gas, bloating, and discomfort, especially after meals containing carbohydrates and fiber. Ginger's natural antimicrobial properties help keep bacterial populations in the small intestine in check without destroying the beneficial bacteria in the colon. This selective action is something that pharmaceutical antibiotics cannot achieve, as they tend to wipe out everything indiscriminately, and that probiotics do not even attempt, since they add bacteria without addressing location. For men who experience significant bloating within 30 to 60 minutes after eating, especially after meals with bread, pasta, or fiber-rich foods, SIBO is worth investigating as a contributing factor. And ginger's prokinetic effect, keeping food and bacteria moving downward through the tract, is one of the most effective natural interventions for preventing the upward bacterial migration that causes it. Here is how to use ginger effectively. The form matters and the timing matters. Fresh ginger root is the most potent source of gingerol. Take a piece about the size of your thumb, slice it thinly or grate it, and steep it in hot water for 10 to 15 minutes. Drink this 15 to 20 minutes before your largest meal of the day. The warmth and the gingerol prime the digestive system, accelerate gastric emptying, and calm the inflammatory environment before food even arrives. Most men notice a reduction in post-meal bloating within the first 3 to 5 days of doing this consistently. If fresh ginger is not available, pre-sliced frozen ginger works nearly as well. Keep a bag in the freezer and pull out 3 or 4 slices per cup. The convenience of frozen ginger means there is no excuse to skip the practice on busy days. You can also grate a large piece of fresh ginger at the start of each week, store it in a glass jar in the refrigerator, and scoop a tablespoon into hot water each day. The daily preparation takes 5 minutes once, and the supply lasts the entire week. For a more sustained anti-inflammatory effect, adding half a teaspoon of dried ginger powder to food throughout the day provides a steady supply of shogal. Stir it into oatmeal, blend it into a protein shake, mix it into soups, or add it to a stir-fry. The taste is warm and slightly spicy, but not overwhelming at this dose. If you prefer standardized dosing, ginger extract capsules at 250 to 500 milligrams taken twice daily with meals provide a consistent and measured amount. Apple cider vinegar complements ginger well for men dealing with reflux. 1 tablespoon diluted in a full glass of water taken 10 to 15 minutes before a meal supports stomach acid production. Counterintuitively, most reflux after 40 is caused by too little stomach acid rather than too much. Low stomach acid means food sits in the stomach longer, ferments, and pushes acid upward through a weakened esophageal sphincter. Supplementing acid rather than suppressing it often resolves the issue at its source. Dilute the vinegar well, drink it through a straw to protect tooth enamel, and do not take it undiluted. If vinegar is not tolerable, digestive bitters, herbal preparations containing gentian root and artichoke leaf stimulate the same acid production pathway and are available in drop or capsule form. The key insight is that suppressing acid with antacids, which is what most men reach for, actually makes the underlying problem worse over time by further reducing the stomach's ability to process food efficiently. The effects of consistent ginger use build over time. Within the first week, bloating and post-meal discomfort typically decrease noticeably. By the second week, digestion feels more predictable and efficient. By the third and fourth week, many men report that foods they had been avoiding are tolerable again. This is not because the food changed, it is because the gut environment changed. The inflammation calmed down, the motility improved, the intestinal barrier began to tighten, and the bacteria that were causing problems in the wrong locations were brought back under control. The improvement tends to be cumulative. Each week is slightly better than the last, not because ginger builds up in the system, but because the gut tissue is progressively repairing and the microbial balance is gradually restoring itself. Once the gut environment has stabilized, which usually takes 4 to 6 weeks of consistent ginger use, that is the point where a probiotic can actually work. The soil has been prepared. The inflammation has been reduced. Now, beneficial bacteria introduced through a supplement or through fermented foods like plain kefir, sauerkraut, or kimchi have a fighting chance of establishing themselves. A probiotic containing Lactobacillus rhamnosus and Bifidobacterium longum at 10 to 20 billion CFUs daily is well supported for gut restoration. Start at a lower dose for the first week and increase gradually to avoid the bloating that sometimes accompanies rapid microbial reintroduction. The sequence matters. Calm the environment, then repopulate it. Most men do it in reverse and spend months wondering why nothing improves. Your gut was not broken because it lacked bacteria. It was broken because the environment became hostile and no amount of added bacteria could survive the conditions. Fix the terrain and the ecosystem rebuilds itself. The tool for fixing it was never in a capsule with $1 billion marketing budget. It was in your kitchen, waiting to be used. And once the terrain is right, the gut does what it was always designed to do: process, absorb, protect, and keep the entire system running clean.